The ancient Egyptians lived in a world where the line between life and death was not a barrier, but a threshold, a doorway to be crossed. For them, death was not an end, but a transformation, a journey that required preparation, protection, and divine guidance. Welcome back to Chronicles Explained. Today we delve into the realm of the sacred souls of Egypt, the gods and goddesses who shaped the afterlife, who determined the fate of souls, and who continue to captivate our imagination thousands of years later. The story of Egyptian afterlife begins with Osiris, the green-skinned god who was once a king of Egypt. Osiris brought civilization to his people, teaching them agriculture, establishing laws, and showing them how to worship the gods. But his brother, Set, consumed by jealousy, murdered him, scattered his dismembered body throughout Egypt, and usurped his throne. Yet this was not the end of Osiris. His devoted wife and sister, Isis, scoured the land, collecting the pieces of her husband's body. With her powerful magic and unwavering love, she reassembled him, brought him back to life long enough to conceive their son, Horus, and then watched as Osiris descended to rule the underworld, becoming the first mummy and the king of the afterlife. This myth became the foundation of Egyptian beliefs about death and rebirth. Every Egyptian who died hoped to become an Osiris, to be reborn in the afterlife just as the god had been. The mummification process that preserved their bodies for thousands of years was a direct homage to Osiris, the first to be wrapped in linen bandages by Anubis, the jackal-headed god of embalming. Anubis stands at the gateway between worlds. With his jackal head and human body, he represents the wild and the tamed, the animal and the human, the living and the dead. Why a jackal? These wild dogs were often seen lurking near cemeteries in ancient Egypt, and instead of fearing them, the Egyptians incorporated them into their religion. Anubis was the original lord of the underworld before Osiris took that role. He became instead the guardian of the dead, the one who prepared bodies for burial, and the guide who led souls to judgment. In tomb paintings, we see him bending over mummies, his hands steady as he completes the sacred rites that will protect the deceased on their journey. But Anubis's most crucial role comes in the Hall of Two Truths, where the dead face judgment. Here, he leads the deceased to the scales of justice, where their heart, the seat of the soul and mind to ancient Egyptians, will be weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and cosmic order. Ma'at isn't just a goddess, she's a concept, a fundamental force that keeps chaos at bay. Her feather represents all that is right and true in the universe. The heart of the deceased must be light as this feather, unburdened by sin, deceit, or wrongdoing. If the scales balance, the soul may proceed to the field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise. If the heart is heavy with misdeeds, a terrible fate awaits. For lurking beside the scales is Ammit, the devourer of the dead. With the head of a crocodile, the forequarters of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, three of Egypt's most feared animals, this female demon waits to consume the hearts of the unworthy, condemning them to a second death from which there is no return. The judgment scene is presided over by Osiris himself, seated on his throne, wrapped in white linen with his green skin, symbolizing rebirth and vegetation. Behind him stand his sisters, Isis and Nephthys, protective goddesses who played crucial roles in his resurrection. Isis, with her throne headdress, is perhaps Egypt's most powerful goddess. She is magic incarnate, the devoted wife who resurrected Osiris, the mother who protected her son Horus against all threats, and a goddess so beloved that her worship spread throughout the Roman Empire, outlasting many other Egyptian cults. In the afterlife, Isis protects the dead as she protected Osiris, using her magical skills to ward off dangers and guide the soul toward rebirth. Her sister Nephthys, often depicted with the hieroglyphs of a palace and a basket on her head, stands with her, the two goddesses like bookends flanking the deceased in tomb paintings, their wings spread in protection. But it is not only the big-name gods who determine one's fate after death. The journey through the underworld, the Duat, is fraught with perils, serpent demons, lakes of fire, and gates guarded by fearsome entities must all be navigated. This is where the Egyptian Book of the Dead comes in, not a single book, but a collection of spells written on papyrus and buried with the deceased. These spells give the dead power over their physical functions, the ability to transform into different animals, and most importantly, the knowledge of how to address each god or guardian they will meet. For in the Egyptian belief, knowing a being's true name gives you power over it. Among the guardian deities are the 4 sons of Horus, who protect the canopic jars containing the deceased's organs. Imseti, the human-headed god, watches over the liver. Hapi, the baboon-headed god, guards the lungs. Duamutef, with his jackal head, protects the stomach. And Kebesenuef, the falcon-headed god, safeguards the intestines. These 4 gods in turn are protected by 4 goddesses, Isis, Nephthys, Neith, and Serket. This layering of divine protection shows just how seriously the Egyptians took the preservation of the body, for without it the soul would have nowhere to return. The ultimate goal of this dangerous journey is to reach the Field of Reeds, or Aru, the Egyptian paradise that was a perfect reflection of life on earth. Here the crops grow taller, the sun shines brighter, and the deceased continues the activities they enjoyed in life, but without pain, illness, or fear of death. Yet even in this paradise, work must be done, fields must be tended, water must be carried. This is why Egyptians were buried with Ushabti figurines, small statuettes that would magically come to life in the afterlife and perform labor on behalf of the deceased. Not all Egyptian afterlife gods were fearsome or associated with death. Hathor, the cow-headed goddess of love, music, and motherhood, welcomes the dead into the afterlife with music and dance. In tomb paintings, we see her emerging from the western mountains, greeting the deceased as they arrive in the realm of the dead. Her symbol, the sistrum, a musical rattle, is often depicted in scenes of the afterlife, reminding us that for Egyptians, death was not a somber, silent place, but one filled with the joy and sensual pleasures they had known in life. Another goddess who brings comfort rather than fear is Nut, the sky goddess often painted on the inside of coffin lids. With her star-spangled body arched protectively over the deceased, she swallows the sun each night and gives birth to it each morning, a cosmic cycle of death and rebirth that mirrors the journey of human souls. When the dead look up from inside their coffins, they see Nut's body, a promise that they too will be reborn. In some spells, the deceased identifies directly with the sun god Ra, hoping to join his solar boat as it travels through the night sky, fighting off the serpent Apophis who seeks to end creation by swallowing the sun. Ra's solar bark is a key vehicle in the afterlife journey. As the sun god travels through the 12 hours of night, the deceased hopes to accompany him, gaining protection from Ra's immense power. In the Book of Gates and the Amduat, ancient texts that map the underworld, we see Ra's transformations as he battles the forces of chaos each night, only to emerge triumphant at dawn, just as the deceased hopes to triumph over death. The relationship between Ra and Osiris is complex and essential to understanding Egyptian afterlife beliefs. While Osiris rules the underworld, Ra visits it each night. In some texts, Ra and Osiris merge during the night hours, becoming a unified deity representing the sun's regenerative power, joined with the mystery of resurrection. This concept of merged identities appears throughout Egyptian religion. Gods combine aspects, share symbols, and absorb each other's attributes in a fluid theology that evolved over 3,000 years. The deceased too takes on divine aspects, becoming Osiris, merging with Ra, gaining the protection of Horus. Perhaps the most enigmatic afterlife deity is Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom and writing. In the judgment scene, it is Thoth who records the verdict as the heart is weighed against Mahat's feather. As divine scribe, he records the fate of each soul, his words having the power to make events reality. But Thoth is more than just a record keeper. He is the author of magic spells, the inventor of hieroglyphs, and the measurer of time. In some myths, it was Thoth who brought Osiris back to life through the power of his words. For the deceased, Thoth represents the hope that wisdom and knowledge can overcome even death itself. The Egyptian gods of the afterlife reflect a sophisticated understanding of human psychology. In Anubis, we see the fear of physical corruption transformed into a protective deity. In Osiris, we find the hope that death is not final. In Ma'at, we acknowledge the universal human desire for justice and cosmic order. These gods have endured in our collective imagination, not merely because of their striking visual appearances, the jackal head, the green skin, the falcon headdress, but because they speak to fundamental human concerns about mortality, justice, and what may lie beyond the veil of death. When we examine the sacred souls of Egypt, we're not just studying an ancient religion. We're looking at one of humanity's most elaborate and enduring attempts to make peace with mortality. The Egyptians faced death not with denial, but with preparation. Not with fear, but with an intricate map of the journey ahead. Their gods of the afterlife, Osiris, Anubis, Isis, Thoth, and many others, were not distant figures but intimate companions in the greatest journey each Egyptian would undertake. These deities promised that death was not an end but a transformation, not a punishment but an opportunity for the worthy to achieve eternal life. The legacy of these gods extends far beyond the sands of Egypt. They appear in our art, our literature, our films, and our dreams. They remind us that every human culture has had to reckon with mortality and has created divine guides to lead us through that final mystery. As we've journeyed together through the Egyptian afterlife, I hope you've gained not just knowledge of these ancient deities, but an appreciation for the wisdom and imagination of a civilization that stared unflinchingly at death and created a path through it, guided by gods who embodied their highest hopes and deepest fears. If you've enjoyed this exploration of Egyptian afterlife gods and goddesses, please consider subscribing to Chronicles Explained for more journeys into ancient beliefs and forgotten wisdom. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our weekly uploads, and share this video with anyone fascinated by Egyptian mythology or the human quest to understand what lies beyond death. Until next time, may Osiris grant you rebirth, may Anubis guide your path, and may Ma'at's feather find your heart worthy. This is Chronicles Explained, bringing the ancient world to life.